Hi everybody, Julie from Artfully You, and today we're going to be painting a winter folk art scene. Let's go!
I know somewhere up ahead your path.
So I'm starting with just some titanium white acrylic paint along with some aqua green. You can also use phthalo green and just add the white to it. You'll probably get the same result. You may need to add a little bit of blue to it to make it a little bit more turquoise. This is my latest tip, which I got from one of my students. She actually uses one of these little bead sorting containers as a travel palette. Um, and surprisingly, it doesn't dry out. I normally use a wet palette, but I find that if I put a thin sheet of dampened paper towel in the top of my little bead container, then it doesn't dry out. So it's a great way when you're traveling. I find that when I'm traveling, my wet palette tends to run, all the colors run into each other, and using one of these little bead containers, it doesn't. So pretty good tip. Thank you very much for my student. So the bottom part of my painting, I've just done an underpainting of some Windsor violet, and I did add a little bit of that aqua green into it just to grey it down. And then I added some low mountains along the horizon line, same colour scheme. I just used some Windsor violet and some aqua green along the top. You can see here I'm just touching up the original painting while I was waiting for my students to catch up with the next step. I'm using an ultra fine black Sharpie to sketch out the different little houses and buildings and trees, and also to establish the three hills or snow mounds that I have in the foreground. I don't do this very often using a Sharpie, but this particular style requires quite a lot of precision, so it helps to use the Sharpie. And also I do like some of the black lines to show through, goes with that kind of folk art style. One thing you'll notice is I'm using the ruler to create my vanishing points for the rooftops. So the rooftops won't be perfectly parallel. They'll be disappearing into a vanish point. And if you want to know a little bit more about vanishing points and 2 and 3 point perspective, then check out my drawing course, which is also available on this YouTube channel, or you can sign up for the live drawing course, which I run every Friday on Zoom. And you can find out all the booking details for that either on my website artfullyu.ca or on my Eventbrite page, which if you just search for Artfully You on my Eventbrite page. You can also follow me on Instagram. All of my updated classes are available within the bio section on my Instagram, which is julie.artfullyu. So if you fancy trying out a little bit of perspective tutorials, then there's the different ways you can access them. So the next thing I'm going to do is a little quick cloud tutorial. I have a little fail-safe way of doing clouds. So you'll notice that I am using a small filbert. I think it's a number 4, and I'm using pure white paint. So I establish a little bit of a baseline first of all for my cloud, and then I point my paintbrush into the top left-hand corner, so towards my light source, and I'm literally just dabbing paint. I am allowing some of the sky to come through, and The clouds, the other thing you need to remember is clouds do appear to be smaller the closer they are to the horizon line. So I've kind of made them thin and wispy and a lot smaller the closer they are to the mountains. The clouds that are higher up in the sky are actually closer to us, so that's why they appear to be larger. Again, I have lots of cloud lessons on my YouTube channel. So once you have your sketch and you're ready to start applying some paint, the important thing to remember is because we're drawing on top of quite a vibrant background already, particularly those purple mountains in the background, we will need to put an underpainting on those on top of those areas first. So an underpainting of white will help cover the purple so we don't have a mountain coming through the middle of our house. When I'm painting trees, I try and make the one that's in the foreground a lot more vibrant than the others, creating a focal point, and that would be where the colour would be the most saturated. So I'm starting with yellow ochre, and then I'm using burnt sienna and then raw umber to do the sides of the tree. I'm making the right hand side a lot darker because that's a side in shadow away from the light. And I will be adding some white into the ochre on my final layer to the tree just to make it pop a little bit more. So the next thing I'm going to do is add a second layer of paint to the little houses. So I've done the kind of lighter underpainting, and then I'll be putting the second layer of the more saturated colour on top. It's a little bit like when you have to paint a wall in your house and you know the wall was originally painted quite dark and you need to put a primer on there before you apply the new colour. Very similar in painting when we're covering up something in the background. We need to put a primer on. So I like to use titanium white as a primer, then put the colour on top, and then you'll find that your colour is a lot more bright and saturated. I always like to create my shadow colours, my greys, using colours that are already within the palette of the painting. So the grey that I'm using a lilac mixed in with the turquoise sky colour. The reason why I'm doing that is it creates a more natural grey that is in keeping with the rest of the painting. I'm going to continue with creating some shadows next. I want to create the shadows of the trees and shadows on the houses. Now don't forget my light source is in the top left hand corner. So my shadows are going to be on a pivot point from that top left hand corner. So you can see I'm slightly rotating my brush in line with the pivot point. So I imagine that there's a vanishing point way off above my canvas to the left, and I'm going to kind of, if you think about a pendulum, the shadow is moving from almost directly below the focal tree towards the right, right up into the top right hand corner where those distant trees are. The final part is adding the snow. It's just my favorite part. Um, I feel like snow fixes everything. Just adding snow onto the little crevices of the trees and the rooftops of the houses, any kind of slight angles that we haven't quite got right, that snow can cover up a little few happy accidents and also really puts a vibrancy into the painting, getting those whites in contrast to those bright colours.
I know somewhere up ahead your path meets with mine, and I will know when the moment comes. I will feel it's time, and it's all about timing, and it's all about need. It's all about feeling, and it's all I can believe. On my thoughtful days I wonder what life you're living now. If you're happy with the things you do, if you keep your faith somehow. And it's all about timing, and it's all about need. It's all about